in each country where they consider if you own a rabbit, you're pretty lucky. If you own a little scarab beetle in Egypt, well, you are one lucky person. I don't know who would want to own a little insect and keep them in your house for good luck, but if that's your thing, you go right for it, all right? One of the dumb things that many smart Christians believe is that God brings good luck. One of the dumb things that many smart Christians believe is that God brings good luck. George Foreman, if you're not a sports enthusiast, you probably don't know who he is, but also some of you might know George Foreman grills. He actually didn't invent them. They just put his name on them, and they sold millions and made him millions. Well, George Foreman, back in 1974, before he went to Africa to fight Muhammad Ali, there's a name you might recognize, a friend gave him a Bible to take along on the trip. He said to George, keep this with you for good luck. George believed that the Bible was just a shepherd's handbook, probably because he only knew one verse, or a part of the verse, the Lord is my shepherd. But George was always looking for luck, so he carried the Bible with him. He also had lucky pennies, and he had good luck charms, and maybe he had a few of those beetles from Egypt with him, since he was in Africa. And so now he added this lucky Bible to his collection of superstitious items. Well, after he lost the fight, he threw the Bible away. He never even opened it. He thought, the Bible didn't help me win, so why do I need it? There are many people, many Christians, and many people, period, whether you're a Christian or not, who believe God is their good luck charm. And as you know, this is nothing but a myth, and I discovered that this myth was true this past week. I'm a Christ follower, so obviously God would be on my side, right? And the side of the teams that I cheer for. God is always on the side of the teams that I cheer for. As I was watching the Cubbies, makes me want to cry to say this. As I was watching Cubby beat the team with the best record in baseball, who won the division by winning 100 games, a team second only to the Yankees, I had to get this in, to the World Series appearances and wins, I prayed, and I honestly said this, oh God, let the Cardinals get the much-needed hit. Oh God, stop the Cubbies from hitting so many home runs. Well, as if you followed that at all, God didn't answer any of my prayers. As hard as I prayed, as hard as I laid my hand on my tablet to send them good vibes, my God, my good luck charm God prayer didn't work. I was totally disappointed that God didn't see things my way. And now I have to bear the pain of watching them move on to the National League Series and happily losing the first game. Folks, this almost cost my relationship with God. God didn't come through. He didn't answer my prayer. I know it's trivial, but if we're honest, we do the same thing, right? We do the same thing. If God doesn't come through in the clutch, what good is he? Well, many Christians wouldn't call him a good luck charm. You would never say that outright. But many Christians say things like this. I've heard it. With God on my side, we can't fail. Ask Saeed Abedini, who's in prison for his faith. If God's not on my... with God on my side, another thing we say, all things are possible. And yes, and these things are true. Or when we have a success, or, we say, and Christians say that, well, if it's successful, God was in it, right? Don't we, church? Yeah, we do. Folks, that's the same thing as saying God is our good luck charm. They're well-meaning phrases, and I don't mean if you use those, I don't know how you use those, but if you're using them for God as being your good luck charm, it isn't going to work. They're just religious phrases we well-meaning Christians use to get God on our side, to get God being our good luck charm. And I believe this is why so many Christians and why so many people who don't follow Christ, that's why they get so disappointed in God. Many think, since God is on my side, meaning he's my good luck charm, if he doesn't come through in the clutch, why on earth do we need him? Come on, church. If he doesn't come through for us in the clutch, why do we need him? I'm willing to ask that question. Even in the trivial things of our life. If he doesn't come through for us, why do we need him? And many Christians believe that if we live God's way, it's going to bring us good fortune. Many believe that God reaches down and tips the scale their way and makes their life better and easier than before. After all, God will not let anything happen to those who believe in him. And this is why I believe, this is why God is so powerless in the life of many who say they are Christ's followers. He's not really the Lord of their life. He's the lucky charm of their life. And there are many well-meaning Christians. There are many well-meaning Christians where God is only the lucky charm of their life, not the Lord of their life. Because haven't you ever asked the question, why don't we experience the power of God in our life? Have you ever asked that question? I ask that question all the time. And if you're honest, and if you answer it honestly, I believe we need to confess many times we just have God as the lucky charm of our life and not the Lord of our life. Let me challenge you early. Think about this question the rest of the time. Is he the lucky charm of your life or the Lord of your life? And folks, there's some very distinct differences here. If he's your lucky charm, you're always wanting something from God. If he's your lucky charm, you are always wanting God to do something for you. If he's your lucky charm, you're always asking God to tip the scales your way so that your life will be easier. Oh, we pray that prayer so much. If he's your lucky charm, you're always wanting God to give you success. If he's your lucky charm, God disappoints you, you stop following him. If he's your lucky charm, we expect that living God's way should cause most things to work out for our good fortune. We also expect rebellion against God would cause our life to fall apart. Now, if he's the Lord of your life, if you're always wanting to give God your life, and you're always seeking after him the best for your life, he's the Lord of your life. If he's the Lord of your life, you're always wanting God to do something, get this, not for you, but what? In you. We always want God to do something for us. And if that's your attitude, then God's nothing but a lucky charm. But when you're asking God to do something in you, there's power in that. If he's the Lord of your life, you're always wanting God to bless those around you by serving them. If he's the Lord of your life, you don't need success or answers to prayers to keep following him. If he's the Lord of your life, you understand that God is with you in the good and the bad and the ugly parts of your life. You know without a shadow of a doubt, he never leaves you. He never forsakes you. Even when you give in to temptation or you have dark moments in your life, you know without a shadow of a doubt, if you are following him and you are seeking after him, you know he hasn't left you. But he'd be just a lucky charm in your life. You know, we freak out. If he's the Lord of your life, we understand that the only thing God, if he's the Lord of your life, you and I both understand that the only thing God promises us is forgiveness, eternity, compassion, and mercy. Read the New Testament. He doesn't promise us we'll win the lottery. Sorry. You can pray that prayer all you want. And if you pray that prayer, folks, you have a serious spiritual problem if you're praying it seriously. Now, if it's just joking, that's not a problem. But there are some people, and I ran into them, who pray that prayer. Oh, God, if I win the lottery, I will give 10% to the church. You know what I say to them? If you're not giving 10% now, you're not going to give 10% then. And we pray, and some of you have probably prayed that prayer. Maybe not in those words. And meant it. He doesn't promise us we will win the lottery. He doesn't promise us that everything is going to be all right. That's why I like Jamaica so much, because they sing that song, and when you sing that song, you believe it when you're living there, I tell you. He doesn't promise us we will get the car and house and job that we want. He doesn't promise us good health, godly kids, good marriages, or the perfect life. That's wishful thinking, folks. That's wishful thinking. That's wanting God as your good luck charm. Oh, God, if you just make my husband do this, then I will love him more. Oh, God, if you just make my wife do this, then I will love you more. That's wishful thinking. That ain't going to happen. That's wishful thinking. Just like, taking a test without studying for it. Oh, God, give me the answers. I have no idea what they are, but give them to me. How many prayed that prayer when you were in school? Okay, there we go. Yeah, some of you confession. He doesn't promise us any of those things. He only promises us forgiveness, eternity, compassion, and mercy. The rest of it, folks, is just wishful thinking. That's wanting God as your good luck charm. And in Psalm 73, you read about an Israelite, an Israeli named Asaph. He was frustrated over the success of the wicked in Psalm 73. He was frustrated over the success of the wicked and the long-running misfortune of those and the long-running misfortune of those who were attempting to live God's way. Doesn't it make you sick when you see wickedness prosper? Or you see evil win? It nauseates me every time ISIS makes the news for killing innocent people. Totally nauseates me. It nauseates me every time you see the rich oppressing the poor in the name of greed. Does that not burn inside of you? It nauseates me every time to hear how rampant human trafficking is. That's a modern day term for forced slavery. Do you know there's more slaves today than during the time when they were fighting slavery? Do you know that? Look up human trafficking. It'll blow your mind. It nauseates me every time how rampant human trafficking is within the United States and around the world for the sake of making $1 and making your life better so you don't have to pay as much. That's where the rubber meets the road, huh? But they get away. It nauseates me every time they get away with it. And at the same time, those who are doing the things the right way, they're not having same good fortune as the wicked people are. And this was Asaph's frustration. He was disappointed with God. Look at what he says in verse 13 and 14. This is what he says. Did I keep my heart pure for nothing? Did I keep myself innocent for no reason? I get nothing but trouble all day long. Every morning brings me pain. If you read about Asaph, he was tempted just to give up on God. But before he did, he sought understanding. He took his complaint to God and he waited for an answer. And then one day he entered the sanctuary of God and it hit him. Psalm 73. For the first time, he fully grasped the eternal destiny of the wicked. He saw their terrible end, and suddenly his plight didn't seem so unfair, or the deal he'd been dealt so bad. Asaph discovered God has all this under control. If God would have been just his lucky charm, Asaph would have bailed out on God a long time ago. Because when God is your lucky charm, that's what you do. You bail out. And folks, we're not the first ones to be deceived by this myth that God is our lucky charm and brings us success, and God brings us good fortune. Many before us have bought into the myth and been totally misled by believing. That's why we still believe it today. It's been passed down from generation to generation to generation. And which generation is going to stop this myth? Many people have bought into this myth, and enough people have believed it that we think it's true. Oh, my stars. Enough people believe this that we actually think, I'm not saying you, but there's so many people who believe that this is true. It's got to be God. God only brings fortune on those who are good. But folks, this is how a myth becomes truth. Enough people believe it, so it must be true. This myth has been around since the beginning of time. And Job, which is recorded, many record as the first book written in the Bible. You know, Job, you know Job's story. You know, look at Job too. You know, Job was the Donald Trump of his day, except probably with a little bit more humility, you know. He was very wealthy. He was very influential. He had a great family, and he was well respected. You probably would vote for him for president. And look what he's going through in Job chapter 2. Verses 4 through 10. This is how it reads. Satan replied to the Lord, skin for skin. A man will give up everything he has to save his life, but reach out and take away his health, and he will surely curse you to your face. All right, do with him as you please, the Lord said to Satan, but spare his life. So Satan left the Lord's presence, and he struck Job with terrible boils from head to foot. Now, you understand what's happened before. He's lost his family. He's lost everything that he owns. And now this is going on. Job scraped his skin with a piece of broken pottery as he sat among the ashes. I'm sure it was sterile. His wife said to him, are you still trying to maintain your integrity? Curse God and die. But Job replied, you talk like a foolish woman. Should we accept only good things from the hand of God and never anything bad? So in all this, Job said, and really did, nothing wrong. Did you hear what Job's wife said to him? Are you still trying to maintain your integrity? Curse God and die. Why did she say this? It was because she believed God had been their lucky charm and had brought them all this success. Could it be the fact that Job was just a really good businessman and knew how to make money? I have a friend who knows how to do that. He's just really good at making money. He's got 6 figures in the bank. Did God bless him? We could have. I mean, I guess it could happen. But this guy just knows how to make money. Could it be that Job just knew how to make money and knew and accumulated all these things? Why did she say that? She believed that God had been their lucky charm and brought them all of this stuff and brought them all of this success. And Job must have done something terrible because of this horrendous stroke of bad luck. He had to do something bad. And Job's friends were so convinced that he must have done something terrible, terribly wrong. They were convinced he did something terribly wrong to bring such misfortune in his life. And I love Job's response, and it reveals that God really is the Lord of his life, and it's put on the front of your bulletin right there. It says, should we accept only good things from the hand of God and never anything bad? And this might be a hard truth for you to accept. But he is the Lord of the good and the bad that happen in your life. We only think, it's a myth to believe that he's only the Lord of the good things that happen in your life. Well, no. He is the Lord of the good and the bad. To believe God is our lucky charm, or that he brings success and good fortune, he doesn't allow bad things to happen to us, well, if you believe that, you're being punked. Anybody know what punked is? Watch that show, Ashton Kutcher? Can't even pronounce his last name. If you don't know what punked is, basically he makes people look like a fool. If you believe that, you believe God is your lucky charm, or that he brings you success and doesn't allow bad things to happen to you, well, if you believe that, you're being punked by the enemy. And folks, this is a dangerous frame of mind to believe that God is our lucky charm. We know that if we were in charge, if we were God, we wouldn't let the wicked prosper, would we? What would we do to the wicked people? They would be in the poorhouse, wouldn't we? We wouldn't make sure of it if we were God. If we were in charge, we only let the wicked people experience tragedy, and the wicked people would be the only ones who would experience trial. And if we were in charge, only the Christians would get the high-paying jobs. And if we were in charge of abortion, if we were in charge, we would wipe out abortion, wouldn't we? If we were in charge, we would take all the rights of the homosexuals, wouldn't we? If we were in charge. God, you're getting it all wrong. I see it on Facebook. Holy cow. You see it there. You've got an account. You can read all that stuff. If we were in charge, this is what we would do. If we were in charge, good people would experience success. If we were in charge, good people would be the only ones that have the rights to vote. Because then we would vote the right president in, wouldn't we? Thank God we are not in charge. Thank God we are not him. The fact is, there is evil. The fact is, the wicked do prosper. And the fact is, good people prosper. The righteous suffer. And the wicked do suffer. The enemy wants us to believe this myth that God is our lucky charm. Why? Because he wants you to curse God. The enemy understands that if you were in charge, you wouldn't need God. Because what we do, we just make good things happen, wouldn't we, around the world? You ever seen Bruce Almighty? You see what good things do? People win $2 in the lottery and they get really disappointed. I mean, it's a movie and it's a myth, but watch Bruce Almighty. And that's a really good picture. Skip some of the scenes if you got some convictions there. But watch that. Boy, what a parable. We think we would know what to do if we were God. Only the good would prosper. God would answer all the prayers of people around the world, and people would only win $2 in the lottery, and then war would break out. That's in Bruce Almighty. Sorry, went off on that one. All right. But the enemy wants us to believe this myth that God is our lucky charm. And because he wants you to curse him. The enemy understands that if you're in charge, you wouldn't need him. He wants you and I, the enemy wants you and I to doubt his existence. He wants you and I to doubt that he's in control. He wants you and I to be like Job's wife, full of anger and disappointment and live in fear that God has left you. And when you have that fear, there is no power there. If you're wondering why you're powerless, and most of all, he wants you and I to lose hope. Now, hear me out on this. A lot of people had a hard time with the Pope and the statement he made. If you follow it on Facebook or read the news or on CNN, when the Pope speaks, people listen. It's kind of like E.F. Hutton, you know. Letting God be the Lord of your life from a human point of view. Let me start over. Letting God be the Lord of your life from the human point of view is the most unlucky thing you can do. Do you know that? At least for a short time. Because what he asks us to do is so unfair. He tells us to take up our cross. He tells us we need to go the extra mile. He tells us we need to love our enemy. He tells us we need to lose our life to gain it. He tells us we need to give everything we have to the poor. He tells us to love him more than our spouse, family, and friends. He tells us to give up everything and follow him. If you're a Christ follower from a human point of view, following Christ is the most unlucky thing you can do. Well, from God's point of view, hopefully you know that. It's the greatest thing you can do. He wants to give you eternal rewards. We want the earthly stuff, don't we? And that's why we get disappointed with God when we don't get what we want. We don't get the earthly reward. What good is God? He doesn't want to give us earthly rewards. Yes, he wants to bless us and prosper us and all that. We don't understand that. But if that's all the desire of your heart, then he's just a lucky charm. He wants to give us eternal rewards. From God's point of view, it's the greatest thing you can do. I think everyone here and around the world, and whoever listens to this on the internet, must come to grips with whether or not you want him as your lucky charm or you want him to be the Lord of your life. You know, the Pope said if you heard it or read it, a lot of evangelicals got all out of sorts. They didn't even read it. I'm convinced they didn't read it. And the Pope, said this about Jesus. Catch this phrase, in human terms, okay? He was human too. He was floating around in human terms. In the eyes of the world, Jesus was a failure. In the eyes of the world, Jesus was a failure. Folks, I read this story again. Even his disciples thought he failed. That's why they scattered. They were scared. This wasn't the way it was supposed to happen. It wasn't supposed to end this way. You're not supposed to die. In the eyes of the world, in human terms, the world saw, and you can read it, the Pharisees thought they had victory and Jesus had failed. He was a total failure, and the disciples thought he had failed. They went and scattered. They couldn't, wow, how could this happen? Here he was healing people, feeding 9,000 plus people. How can he leave this earth? Oh, he's failed miserably. But we all know if you go check the tomb, what was it, full or empty? Somebody tell me. Empty! We know he wasn't a failure. We know that. But those who see him as a good luck charm, See him as a failure when he doesn't come through in the clutch. When he doesn't help my baseball team win, he's a failure. If he doesn't do this for my kids, he's a failure. If he doesn't heal me of this disease, he's a failure. We don't say it, but we think it, and it becomes reality in our life. And we get angry with God, and we walk away from God, never to return. Many people. And that's why we have no power in our life. If God is a lucky charm, Jesus was the most unlucky person that walked the earth. He was spit on, shamed, hung naked on a cross. He was mocked, he was beaten, and nailed to the cross, which was the most cruel death a human could die. Folks, God is your lucky charm. Jesus was the most unlucky person that walked the earth. Now, if you call that lucky, being spit on, shamed, mocked, beaten, nailed, and dying, well, if you call that lucky, well, someone should have bought Jesus a rabbit's foot, so all those things wouldn't have happened to him. After all, rabbits can feel and sense danger. Why didn't somebody give him a rabbit's foot and say, what you're doing is very dangerous? People are going to look at you as a failure. Give him a rabbit's foot and he can rub it. God, oh God, take me down from this cross. Rub the rabbit. Oh God, get me out of this situation. Oh God, take this disease from me. Oh God, do this. Oh God, do this. Oh God, do that. Oh God, and you know what? He's never going to answer that prayer because he's not a good luck charm. He's the Savior of the world. Now make him a lucky charm. You'll never experience the presence of God ever in your life. You will just have feel-good moments. You know, they call them high moments. You ever have those? Everything's going good. God's with me, everything's going good. Bam! You get thrown a curve. Well, God, where are you at now? If he's your lucky charm. But if he's the Lord of your life, you know you can only find hope in him. Only he can change the desires of your heart. I can't do it. No song can do it. Only he can do it. But if he's just a lucky charm this morning, I just pray today that in this moment, in this time, that you be honest with him and say, God, my whole life, all I have seen you is as a lucky charm. All I want is things from you. Lord, I want you to do things for me. I don't want you to do things in me. God, forgive me. We all need to be honest, folks. We've all said those phrases I said at the very beginning. With God, all things are possible. And God, if it's successful, God is in it. You know, when it's unsuccessful, God is still in it. He never changes. He doesn't stop loving. And we need to be honest, folks. If we want to experience God's power in our life, now if you don't want it, boy, sit at home and watch TV and watch Joel Osteen. If you don't want the presence of God in your life, if you don't want the power of God in your life, God says, step out. I don't want to be your lucky charm. And the scripture says, if he is your lucky charm, he spits you out of his mouth. You never knew me. Come on, church. Come on. When you allow him to be the Lord of your life and not your lucky charm? You know, some people wear a cross around their neck. You know what? Unbelievers and believers do that, folks. It means nothing anymore. It's just a piece of jewelry. That means nothing anymore. That's just a good luck charm. God, protect me from harm. God, don't let anything evil happen to me today. That's just a lucky charm for most. But if he's the Lord of your life, when we sing the words of this song we're about to sing, you will know them to be true. And as you sing, not that you have to get all emotional when you sing. I'm not saying that. But if the words of this song we're about to sing doesn't penetrate the depths of your heart, then you really need to examine your relationship with God. Well, I've been following him for 30 years. I don't care. Because he wants everything. Is he Lord of your life? Or is he a lucky charm?